Hey, you're listening to the Boston Celtics newsfeed. This is Celtics Roundtable, powered by CLNS Media. I'm Matt Ignal, joined here by Celtics blog writer Alex Kungu. Alex, I've been a fan of your writing for a while. I really love your Avery Bradley piece that you did a long time ago. But now I know you've turned your attention a little bit more towards, as most of Celtics fans have, towards Markelle Fultz and this Celtics off season. Doing a little bit of a deep dive into some footage. You just wrote an article on how he fits with Isaiah Thomas for the foreseeable future. As you're watching Markelle Fultz and you're gathering information on him, what's your main takeaway, I guess, about what you think he might bring to the Celtics in both the near and long term?
Yeah, how you doing, first of all? Markelle Fultz is interesting because it's hard not to talk about him and get into hyperbole. The best way to really describe him is that he has no critical weaknesses in his game. There are concerns defensively, which I do think he'll get better in as he goes on. There was some questions about Washington as a whole defensively. There's some questions about his, leadership, because when your team doesn't make the tournament and you lose your last 13 games, people are going to question why. You're supposed to be the number one pick. But in terms of just him as a prospect, he could do just about everything you want from a basketball player. He shoots on the ball, off the ball. He can pass, rebound, assist. He has the perfect physical tools right now we're estimating he might be at about 6'5" with a 6'10" wingspan. And that's perfect size to guard either guard spot. What sticks out to me in the short term is that I do believe that coming into the Celtics system from year one, he should be able to be somewhat of an offensive threat. I wouldn't expect, obviously, the 23 points per game, but he can be someone who can break down someone on dribble. If he gets switched on to a Kevin Love, he can score on that person. He's someone that if you can't just leave him alone in the corner because he can knock down shots. He's someone that can run a pick and roll, and instead of just making, the initial kickback to the big, he could take it to the hole himself, or he can collapse the defense and kick it out to a shooter. So when you're looking at Markelle Fultz as someone who could potentially give you that secondary score, that other ball handler that could actually supplement Isaiah Thomas offensively and kind of take the burden off him from year one. So this would be a pretty substantial upgrade for the Celtics.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you look at some of the point guards that have been, drafted really high, the really, really good ones, they were really good pretty close to right away. I mean, I'm just looking here, KYRIE IRVING, who's actually may not be the worst comp offensively because he's got, I think Markelle might be actually a better playmaker, but IRVING, he shot 57% true shooting and scored 19 points a game his first year. John Wall was, setting assist records and just coming right out of school. So, and those two guys went number one, and Chris Paul was great his first year. He was a little bit older. So, it's definitely not out of the question that he could contribute in his first year. I think you're right on the money with that. When you watch him, when you go over his footage, how high do you think that ceiling is? How might he compare to top prospects in recent drafts? I'm talking Karl Towns and Anthony Davis. Does he have quite that potential, would you say?
I think they're just kind of on a different level because of their height, just that ability to be 7 foot and then do kind of all the things that really a wing can do. Yeah. That gives you, that's the best advantage you can have in basketball. That's why they call it a unicorn. So I don't think he's he could be that quite special, but I do think when you start thinking of the kind of the upside of a James Harden, a John Wall, Dame Lillard, I think he could be on that track. I just think his just ability, he just doesn't coming into the league and knowing how to run a pick and roll is a very big advantage. Knowing how to do the timing right, knowing when to probe, knowing when to pass, knowing just how long you have to wait before the defense collapses to pass it. He just has very good instincts, and players like that just don't come along very often. It took Marcus Smart maybe 3 years to learn how to run a pick and roll, and Markelle Fultz
his feel is already better than Marcus Smart's. He's a better offense. He's probably a better offensive player when he was at that U18 tournament a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you have guys just that skilled and coming in that skilled and he's only 19, I think the James Harden comparisons are real. I think they are. I think he could be that type of player where you could, maybe he doesn't have, like, the potential that a guy like Karl Anthony Towns does, but, like, he has the skill where he could also put a franchise on his back. And granted, I don't think he'll do it in year one, but I think he'll show enough in this year where, for sure he'll be someone that people look at Boston's youth movement and say, okay, they have Markelle Fultz, they're going to be all right for a long time.
You threw the F word around franchise. Can he be the best player on a championship team? We say that, like, you know, if he gets to James Harden level, then I think the answer is probably yes at that point. So, I mean, I guess this sort of like plays into like sort of what the Celtics should do next, and perhaps like, you know, with the 2018 pick, you need really multiple like Hall of Famers to win championships in the NBA, and hopefully Markelle can be one of those guys someday. But can he really be? You think that like true franchise player that you know powers the Celtics to, you know, Eastern Conference and Finals appearances throughout the decade, or will he need like some more, you know, serious help who's about his age? I'm kind of like leading you a certain way here.
Well, yeah, I think in this NBA climate, there's no player that can win by himself. I think you are going to obviously need other pieces around him. I think the real question you want to ask is, can he be the number one option on a championship team? And I think as of now, again, he still has to develop. He's still only 19. He still has, you know, holes in his game. And we still have to see how he acclimates to the NBA setting. But just as a prospect, all the tools that he has, I do think he's someone that you can seriously look down the road and go, yeah, that guy could be the number one option. That guy can be the team that leads the 2025 Celtics to the NBA championship.
All right, before we continue, I want to tell you about HelloFresh, the meal kit delivery service that makes cooking more fun so you can focus on the whole experience, not just the final plate. Each week, HelloFresh creates new delicious recipes with step-by-step instructions designed to take around 30 minutes for everyone from novices to seasoned home cooks short on time. They source the freshest ingredients measured to the exact quantities needed so that there's no food waste. HelloFresh delivers food to your doorstep in a recyclable, insulated box for free, and they are now offering light spring meals and have just introduced breakfast options. Now, the loyal listeners of CLNS Media will get a very special offer. Get this, because you are a loyal listener to the Boston Celtics newsfeed. Use the promo code BEAT30 for $30 off your first week of HelloFresh. Again, support the Celtics Roundtable and try HelloFresh for free. Simply visit HelloFresh.com and enter the promo code BEAT30. Okay, now back to the Roundtable.
I could only imagine like how different even like the Washington series could have been if when Isaiah Thomas was getting triple teamed, he threw it to Markelle Fultz. And instead of having like a guy like Marcus Smart who can't break down someone off the dribble, who can't finish at the rim, you have someone like Markelle Fultz who could just run another pick and roll and collapse the defense and even get Thomas a better shot.
So this is what you talked about, like in your article, right? How you thought that they could just like, I don't think anybody could really disagree with, like, at least offensively, that they would just be such a dynamic duo because both of them can shoot on ball, off ball. Both of them can, you know, make smart passes to one another. They can both break down guys off the dribble. I think you compared it to like a sort of a Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum sort of deal where, you know, both guys can do a little bit of everything and it just makes for like a really potent offense. Do you see that as being like a long-term pairing for the Celtics? Or, you know, is this just 1 year, or do you think that they might just, you know, play it by ear and see how it works out? What do you think?
I think a lot of factors will go into it. I personally think a lot of it would just depend on what they see. Like they're not. I don't think right now they're drafting Markelle Fultz and saying he's going to be the Isaiah Thomas backup. Or he's going to be the Isaiah Thomas replacement, rather. They're looking at it and saying, okay, we're going to try this, and however they play together could, you know, be a big determination of where we go forward. I do think right now I'm pretty sure they are interested to see how the pairing would work. I do think eventually, though, we would have to kind of come to the realization that Markelle Fultz is a pass-first player, and he is a point guard.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, like, we're in this whole era of positionless basketball, yada, yada, yada. But eventually, like, guys have roles in which they excel the best at. And for Markelle Fultz, that is with the ball in his hands, running pick and roll, similar to Isaiah Thomas. Now, you're not going to I don't think you're going to turn a 5'9" guy to a full-out off-ball player. And, you know, in the beginning of his career, like Markelle Fultz's career, it could work for a little bit. Like, it can work. But eventually, you're going to have to face reality that he is most likely best suited to play the point guard full time. And if, say, for example, he just absolutely kills it this year, maybe he has like a 12-5-5 season. He's in the rookie of the year running. We go in the playoffs and he's a big X factor. You do have to start thinking, like, over time, is Isaiah Thomas going to be worth like the $30 million he's going to command, or could we be okay transitioning to a Markelle Fultz era? Those are questions that Celtics going to answer, but they aren't going to really be able to answer it until they see what they're getting on the court. So it will be interesting to see how they play, and I think how they play will determine how the Celtics feel about their guard situation.
Yeah, well, both of them are saying like all the right things. What do you see about like his role, I guess, on the Celtics to start? Like, we don't know what's going to happen. Like, if they get Gordon Hayward, they probably got to ship out a guard or something like that. Do you see him sort of coming off the bench to start? Is that where you'd like to see him as a Celtics fan yourself?
I mean, personally, I do kind of like the system Brad Stevens has. Something that both Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown have talked about coming into the Celtics and getting into the culture is how they earned every minute, and they earned their playing time, they earned their possessions. That seems to be a point of emphasis for Brad Stevens. He's not interested in just letting guys come into their first year and automatically giving them a bunch of minutes. This is a playoff team. We did win 53 games. We do have some very talented guards, and I think regardless of even if we have to ship out, like an Avery Bradley or a Marcus Smart, whatever combination of those two are left, they should still probably get the starting nod over him, just because point guard is such a hard position. Every night you're playing against some of the best in the league. You're going to have to be on your A game defensively. You're going to have to know the plays, going to have to lead the team. And I think it's something that he would probably benefit better off coming off the bench, learning behind those guys at least for a year. And I think that'd be like the perfect role for him, because I think he'll need a year to at least, fully be able to get up with the speed, at least offensively. I think offensively he could probably start. He has that skill, but at least offensively, coming off the bench for him would be, I think, an ideal situation.
Do you think he gets like the Jaylen Brown treatment? Like first you defend and then you get playing time, or like the better you defend, the more playing time you get? Would that be the best thing for him?
You know what? Actually, I don't think so, because I think Jaylen Brown was, at least, he had offensive potential, but a lot of it is based on his athleticism, his ability to get to the rim, his ability to finish, and he's still developing as a handler and stuff like that. So Brad Stevens kind of was using him as kind of like a 3-and-D wing type of guy, whereas in that situation, his D was his best asset his first year, so that's why it determined his play time. I think for someone like Markelle Fultz, his best asset is his ability to score, his ability to give Isaiah another creator to take the pressure off him. And I think regardless of whether he could defend or not, I still think he'll be able to get time regardless of his defense, at least initially, because of his offensive ability. I do think, I can't get out of my head how Marcus Smart got switched on to Kevin Love and could not create against him whatsoever at all.
Right.
I think that's a skill that, regardless of Markelle Fultz being like the subpar defender, he'll be able to get on the court because he can do that. He can break down those skills. You've even seen Brad Stevens opt to give someone like Gerald Green minutes and make him a starter, and he's widely known as a poor defender. So I do think because of his offensive ability, he will get, opportunities regardless of how far his defense comes along this first year. So yeah, I do think he will get minutes primarily because they know what they're getting from him. They're getting a secondary scorer. They're getting someone who can create, and that's what they're going to want to put him in a position to do.
And that's an interesting perspective there. I just wonder then his whole career trajectory probably changes if he becomes a good defender. We know he's going to be really good offensively. His combination of skill and athleticism, you don't see it come around very often. And he's really athletic, really skilled. He's probably a B+ or better in both of them. He actually might be a little bit more skilled than he is athletic. But it's his defense. If he can at least become an average defender and not this sieve like he often so appeared at Washington, you could be talking like, first or second team All NBA someday with this guy. But it's to me, it's just vital that the Celtics turn him into the player who makes like winning plays in addition to one who's just, this incredibly skilled guy.
Okay, we want to thank Alex Kungu for coming on for this deep dive into the presumptive number 1 pick in this upcoming NBA draft and how he will fit in with Isaiah Thomas and the Celtics next year. We're going to have Alex back on sometime in the next few days to talk a little bit about how getting Markelle Fultz impacts the Celtics' future, as well as a variety of other off-season topics. For now, however, you can catch Alex on Celtics blog and follow his Twitter account. That's at Kungu_NBA. Be sure to subscribe to the Boston Celtics newsfeed for more great Celtics Roundtable content, and follow us on Twitter at CLNS Roundtable. Also, a 5-star review in iTunes really helps us out a lot. So anyway, we'll be back tomorrow with the Cap Dabbler, Sam Sheehan, once again to discuss who the Celtics should move on from if they're able to sign Gordon Hayward. We'll see you then.